Welcome to the Las Vegas Review-Journal Judicial Primary Debates. Here's your host, Steve Sebelius. Welcome to the Review-Journal studio. I'm Steve Sebelius. Tonight we are hosting candidates for District Court Department 23. We have three candidates with us tonight. First is Karl Armstrong, a senior appeals officer with the Nevada State Department of Administration Hearings Division. Then we have Jasmin Lilly-Spells, a public defender who's also a court-appointed special advocate in Clark County. And Jim Sweetin, a Chief Deputy District Attorney in the Clark County District Attorney's Office. And a fourth candidate, Craig Friedberg, was unable to make tonight's debate. Welcome to all the candidates, and our thanks to them for participating. The rules are as follows. We'll have opening statements for 1 minute, then we'll have questions. The answers will also be 1 minute with a possible 30-second follow-up at the moderator's discretion. Let's begin with opening statements and Mr. Karl Armstrong.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us to speak tonight. I've had 30 years of legal experience, some in Chicago, some here in Nevada. I have civil experience in terms of being a lawyer working for an insurance company, State Farm and Travelers Insurance. My last employment, private employment, was with Travelers Insurance. I also worked for the Nevada University system in terms of representing all our campuses and also representing people in the AG's office in terms of representing the Department of Prisons and working in the criminal division. I've had civil jury trial experience both in federal and state court, as well as in criminal. I've been a public defender in Chicago, and I've also been a workers' comp fraud prosecutor here in Nevada. I've also been a judicial law clerk for two judges, Judge Laura and Judge Guy, in the HJD, and I've also been doing the two appellate court briefs in terms of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I have ethics experience in terms of being a member of the Judicial Discipline Commission, as well as a lawyer disciplinary panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Ms. Lilly-Spells.
Thank you for the opportunity and the honor to come here and speak with the Review-Journal and the public. Growing up in a working-class family, a legal career was never a thought. But right before my 16th Christmas, my favorite cousin was tragically killed. So I went to law school to help others. And for the past decade, I've been an attorney protecting the constitutional rights of all and being a voice to the voiceless. I've worked with victims, businesses, community partners, attorneys, families, and defendants to reach great case resolutions. At home, I'm the wife to a military veteran and the mom of 4 amazing kids. I understand how the law affects everyday people and how a judge's decisions are long-lasting because my cousin's death has affected me for the past 20 years, over 20 years. That's why I promise in my courtroom you will find equal access to justice, a listening ear, and balanced rulings based upon the law. I'm asking for your support. Please vote Jasmin Lilly-Spells, District Court, Department 23.
Thank you. Mr. Sweetin.
Thank you, Steve. I'm running for District Court Judge because I'm best suited to exact justice and protect this community. My experience has prepared me. I'm a career prosecutor. I've worked for the Clark County District Attorney's Office for the past 25 years. For the past 12 years, I've been in charge of the Special Victims Unit, where I have helped victims find a voice as well as protect them from various crimes, sometimes the weakest in our community, crimes of sexual assault, sex trafficking, child abuse. I've prosecuted thousands of cases. I've taken around 100 trial cases to jury trial. I've been in a Clark County courtroom just about every day over 25 years. I understand the district court and I understand how to run a fair and efficient court. I've grown up in this community. My wife and I have raised 5 children here. I'm committed to this community. I am proud of what I've done at the district attorney's office, but I know that I can do other things as a district court judge. As a district court judge, I will protect and improve our community, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, let's go to our first question, and this first question will be to Mr. Armstrong, and that is this. What do you consider to be the greatest accomplishment of your legal career?
The greatest accomplishment of my legal career has been having the honor of being an appeals officer for the state of Nevada. At this particular point, I've served in that position for the last 4 years, and I adjudicate workers' comp appeals. So if you want to talk about judicial experience, I've been doing it for the past 4 years in terms of both running a courtroom as well as deciding cases based upon fairness, justice, and compassion. So that's the reason why I believe I'm qualified for this position.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Lilly-Spells, your greatest accomplishment of your legal career so far.
Thank you. My greatest accomplishment legally has been arguing in front of the Nevada State Court of Appeals and having cases overturned in my favor. But with regard to personally, my greatest accomplishment has been being a part of seeing someone who is so torn, either from depression, mental illness, drug addiction, and being a part of the people who assist in getting that person the resources and the services that they need so that they can return to our community, ensuring that our community is safe and that they can be a productive citizen. And the joy of seeing someone who is so mentally ill where, for instance, one client was actually wiping a cell with their own urine, to seeing them being able to present out of custody lucid is an amazing joy to see those accomplishments.
Thank you, ma'am. And Mr. Sweetin, your greatest legal accomplishment so far?
And I believe my greatest legal accomplishment was in 2010 when I was appointed to be chief of the Special Victims Unit at the Clark County District Attorney's Office. You know, in that job, I've had the opportunity to serve a number of victims who have had their life torn up. Their families have been devastated. I've been able to watch those victims get through the process. I've been able to help them along the way. And in the process, I've been able to prosecute some very prolific criminals here in Clark County. My job as a prosecutor is to seek justice, but it's also to protect the community. And that's what a district court judge does as well. As I begin a job as district court judge, I will seek always to protect this community.
Thanks, sir. We appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more questions and answers for candidates for Clark County District Court, Department 23. Welcome back to the Review Journal's Judicial Debate. We're talking with candidates for Clark County District Court Judge, Department 23. Our next question goes to Ms. Lilly-Spells first. What problems do you believe you might encounter in moving from your current role as an advocate for a client to a role as a neutral judge?
I believe the move and the transition from an advocate to a judge will be very seamless. As a defense attorney, I have the obligation to look at all sides of the case. I must look at the facts as presented through the district attorney and the police, but I also have to engage in my own investigation by speaking with clients, speaking with family members, reaching out and looking at all of the aspects. Also, sometimes doing our own research to figure out whether the individuals are telling the truth or not. As a judge, it is very important that you look at all sides of the case and that you weigh all sides of the case. I am a complete attorney. I do everything from the beginning of a case to an end of a case, including appeals, motion work, and so I don't see any issue with being able to read briefs, write orders, or make decisions on the fly. I also have the necessary experience in rules of evidence and being able to make those calls with regard to trials.
All right. Mr. Sweetin, do you think you'd have any trouble from going from an advocate for the people to a neutral judge?
I don't. As a prosecutor, my job is to seek justice. Unlike an advocate who is advocating for either side, as a prosecutor, my client is not the state necessarily or necessarily the perpetrator, but it is justice. And it's that search for justice as a prosecutor that's caused me to look at the entire picture, to look at the crime, to look at the victim, to look at the perpetrator, to look at all the causes in determining how best to proceed. I think that translates very well over to court. I would note that in this race, I have experience of almost 100 jury trials, 25 years in the courtroom on a daily basis. Based upon that experience, I think I am most fitted to step into the role of district court judge. I know how a district court judge a court operates. I know how a trial operates, how to pick a jury, how to make evidentiary rulings. That's something that only comes from experience in the courtroom, and that's what I have.
Mr. Armstrong, you're already a hearing officer.
I'm already a judge, so to a certain extent, it's not really seamless, because what we're talking about here is basically listening to both sides, hearing what they have to say, looking at all the evidence, both evidentiary as well as people testifying, making evidentiary rulings in terms of that's what we do in a court. It's a record hearing that I preside over. And then what I have to do at that point is I have 30 days in which to write a written decision. So that's what I do every day. And I've been doing that for the last 4 years. But also taking into account for the last 26 before that, I've been a practicing attorney. I've done civil cases. I've done criminal cases. I've had experience in all the areas of law that this department will deal with. This department deals with both criminal matters as well as civil matters. I can start on day one and do what needs to be done relative to that department.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the transition. Bearing in mind that this courtroom does civil matters as well, Mr. Sweetin, this question to you. Do you believe that all citizens currently have adequate access to legal help in both the criminal and the civil system? And if not, what could you do in your role as a judge to ensure that they do have that access?
Yeah. Well, I believe that access for many is limited. If a person does not understand the system or have money, it's very difficult many times to get access to the system. I remember as a young child, my parents, who were blue-collar workers, had an issue in regards to a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit, and they were terrified by the court. I know that there are remedies that are available or resources that are available to individuals who are trying to access the court through nonprofit agencies, through pro bono projects, and that sort. And as a judge, I can merely provide access to individuals who want to self-help and come into the courtroom. There's not a lot more that I can do beyond that. But I would note that this court is a district court, and that is different than an administrative law court. Picking a jury is something that an administrative law court does not do. And that is something that's so important. That experience for a judge to hit the ground running is incredibly important.
Mr. Armstrong,
I guess a statement was made. The statement was made that maybe there's a possibility that I don't know how to do a jury trial. I've done jury trials and I've picked juries. I've done cases to verdict, and it's not a question in terms of that. Only for the past 4 years I've acted in a judicial role in terms of being an appeals officer. In terms of access to justice, yes, there are things like the Court Self-Help Center. Yes, there are things like Legal Aid of Southern Nevada. There's public defenders for indigent defenders. There's pro bono legal help. We need more attorneys to step up and help people that need help. We also have to, as judges, talk to litigants and say they need to get legal representation. If they can't get it, go to some of these resources. If they want to do it pro se, then maybe what we need to do is make sure that they have the resources in order to be able to do these things. One of the things that we have a concern about in the courts is that we have to make sure that people have the right to get information and judges help them get that information. What we have to do is we have to make sure that what happens is that they have the time they need in order to get done what they need to get done. That has to happen. And that's the most we can do. We can't do any more than that because we have to be fair to all sides. And if you don't have an attorney, then you have to deal with the representation that you can get at that point.
Ms. Lilly-Spells, what do you think about that?
Thank you. I do not believe that we have adequate access to the law. That's one of the reasons why I've been on the front lines, being a defense attorney as a public defender, and helping those who cannot afford to represent themselves, making sure their constitutional rights are being protected, and being a part of the checks balances, a system of checks and balances to ensure that all of our constitutional rights are protected. I also take on pro bono cases. I do civil pro bono cases right now because I believe in people having good quality representation, whether they can afford to or not. That's basically what I've done my entire career. Now, with regard to being a judge, judges are not allowed to give legal advice once they are on the bench. That is prohibited with the judicial canons. However, I do believe that I can be someone who is a mentor, who is someone who encourages pro bono work, and additionally, I can provide resources and access, maybe by putting the information for all of the places we have with Nevada Legal Services, the clinics, in my courtroom. Additionally, I could look at working with the law school and their clinics to see if there are other programs and other ways that people can have some resources and some help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will be right back after this short break with more questions and answers in Department 23.
For all your Raiders
The
news,
veterans on this team.
like us on Facebook, download the Vegas Nation app, and go to vegasnation.com.
Welcome back to the Review Journal's Judicial Debate. We're talking about Department 23 of the District Court. This next question goes to Mr. Armstrong first. If you observed a party in your courtroom who was being poorly represented by an unprepared or ineffective lawyer, how would you handle that situation?
Basically, one of the things that a judge has to do is they have to be fair and they have to be just. The problem is that we can't play favorites. We can't say that one person has an advantage over another. At the same time, if someone is being poorly represented, that is their representation. So my job at that particular point is to get out what I need to get out in making choices as to what I ultimately have to decide. Other than that, that person has recourse, not in my court, but other places, both the appellate right, and they also have the right to appeal to the state bar if they feel that they are being misused by their counsel. But there isn't a lot of things that a judge can do, because it would be unfair to the other side if I put my thumb on the scale and decided that I would help that person out. I can't do that. I have to listen to what they have to say, read their briefs, do the appropriate legal research, and arrive at the appropriate conclusion. If you have a jury, that's not that big a deal, because the jury will make the determination of guilt and innocence. But if it's a bench trial or it's something in which I have to rule on a motion or something of that nature, that is the procedure I must use. I have no choice.
Ms. Lilly-Spells, what do you think? If someone was in your courtroom and they weren't being adequately represented by counsel, as a judge, could you do anything?
I do think that there are things that can be done. Thank you for this question. And I disagree that it's unfair to the other side. In a criminal case, it is of the utmost importance that we have the accused having a fair trial and the victim a right to share their side of the story, be heard, and to get justice. And there are certain times when a judge has a duty to ensure that someone's liberty is not being taken when there are no facts or no circumstances. On certain written motions, a judge must dismiss the case if there are not enough facts or the state has not done their job in presenting adequate evidence. I do, however, see that sometimes attorneys make decisions that are based upon their strategy, and so it's not necessarily my place to rule as to whether they are doing something for strategy or they are ineffective. However, I believe it's my job to be prepared, asking the right questions, doing research to make sure that I understand the law that applies, and applying that law in a fair manner to ensure that everyone has an equal shot and that the rulings are based upon the law and the facts fairly.
Thank you, ma'am. And Mr. Sweetin, what do you think?
And thank you for this question. It's an important question, because a judge has a responsibility above almost all else to do justice within the courtroom. Now, many times a judge has most likely been an advocate at some point himself, him or herself, and so they have, the judge would have a way of looking at things as to how they should be done. Sometimes attorneys come in and they don't do it exactly that way. The judge thinks, well, they could be doing it better. The judge can't get in the middle of that. Each party has the right to present their case as they want it. There are circumstances, however, when an attorney is obviously not representing their client to the best of their ability or to the minimum that is available. And in those particular cases, normally if a judge sees an individual that's maybe under the influence in the courtroom, which has happened in our jurisdiction, he has a duty to report that to the bar. An attorney has an ethical responsibility to be competent, and a judge has a responsibility to make sure that happens.
Thanks, sir. We appreciate it. We'll be right back with candidate closing statements in Department 23, District Court. Stay with us.
For all your Raiders news,
veterans on this team.
like us on Facebook, download the Vegas Nation app, and go to vegasnation.com.
Welcome back to the Review Journal's Judicial Debate. We're talking to candidates in Department 23. We're going to hear now closing statements from each of the candidates in the reverse order that we started. Mr. Sweetin, you go first.
Thank you, Steve. A district court judge has to have the confidence and the ability to make decisions on evidentiary and procedural issues that come within the courtroom in order to do justice in that courtroom. The ability to do that only comes from experience in the district court. Now, we've heard some of the candidates talk about experience they might have had in administrative law courts. That's not the same as district court. And I have that experience. I have that experience over 25 years of spending just about every day in the courtroom, of doing almost 100 jury trials, of prosecuting thousands of cases. I know what it takes to run a courtroom. Additionally, one of the most important things a district court judge is called upon to do is to protect the community. I have practiced here in Clark County for 25 years, and I have a track record at the district attorney's office of doing just that. I am the best candidate in this race, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Lilly-Spells, your closing statement.
Thank you very much. I have the courtroom experience by being a trial attorney, being in the courtroom mostly every day, and understanding the rules of evidence and how they apply to cases. I have the legal experience by being an attorney who handles every aspect of a case, from a traffic ticket to a murder case, from the beginning to the end, including doing motion work and appellate work. I have the experience of doing pro bono civil cases, working with children in the abuse and neglect system as a CASA, being a mediator with the Neighborhood Justice Center, as well as being a parking arbitrator in the past. I have the diversity, and I understand, most importantly, the concerns of the everyday people who come before the court. And that is the large majority of individuals who are coming before the courts. As a wife, as a mom, as an advocate, I am uniquely qualified to be the best judge in District Court Department 23. And that is why I promise equal access to justice, a listening ear, and balanced rulings based upon the law. I'm asking for your support. Please vote Jasmin Lilly-Spells, District Court Department 23.
Thank you. Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you for giving us the time to be heard in this forum. I have 30 years of legal experience. It's not just in administrative law, as Mr. Sweetin just stated. It's doing jury trials, both in federal court and in state court, doing evidentiary rulings in all of those courts, basically doing prosecutions as well as defense work for criminal cases. I know these areas of law. You need someone that has a varied portfolio of things that they know how to do in order to be a well-rounded district court judge. But there's also something else that you need from a district court judge. What you need from them is to be compassionate, fair, just, and will get out expeditious decisions so people can move on with their lives and the things that they must do. That is the kind of judge that I will be. I'm already a judge at this particular point and know what I'm doing. At this particular point, what I need from you is your vote, because I believe I am the best qualified and most diverse candidate to fill this position. I ask for your vote. Karl Armstrong for District Court, Department 23.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks to all the candidates and their thoughtful answers to our questions. We appreciate them being here. We also appreciate you watching. Also, stay up to date with all of the news 2020, not only judicial races, but all political races, state, local, and federal, on our website, reviewjournal.com, or on our mobile app. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.